the politics of New York is historically corrupt.
Right.
Imagine that.
Every 5
you heard it
years,
here first.
Shocking.
every 5 years, we take the leaders of the legislature and we put them in jail.
Okay.
And we drive governors out of town too on a fairly regular basis.
That's embarrassing.
So the political back and forth that led to this, again, was focused heavily on promoting social equity, helping those that were damaged by the war on drugs.
That's right.
And so they did allow the existing registered organizations, the medical licensees, to continue and expand into adult use and continue to be vertically integrated.
We are back with another episode of MITA Unshackled from MJBizCon 2023. We are on the third, fourth episode. I kind of lost count, but we have an amazing panel. We've done Alabama, we've done Colorado, we've done we're on episode number 4. We have the New York group here today, and I have like the king and queen of New York and the Duke.
And some dude.
The Duke.
Some other dude.
So we have an amazing panel. I don't want to talk too much. I want to get right in because they have more information about New York than you could ever possibly imagine. They could probably write dissertations on the cannabis industry in New York, as well as other states, by the way. But this focus is New York. So let's focus a little bit on New York. Why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about the company, what you do, and then we're going to get into some dynamics about how New York works. Who wants to go first?
Starting off,
Gene.
Gene Sullivan. I'm a longtime venture capital investor and turned to this incredible zany cannabis industry. I'm in New York City. We've been waiting for New York for a long time, 10 years in for myself, as you're going to hear why and how. I'm part of the ArcView Group. I advise companies, work with David Feldman, and thrilled to be here. And how smart you are, Dimitri, for covering these states, especially New York. We have so much to say today.
You know, a lot of people are coming here looking for experts from other states, and they might not interact with them, but they're going to find this program and these individuals after MJBizCon, and you're obviously always available to them.
That's important, but let me share this too. People are saying, what's going on with New York? That's our goal today, to share those highs and the lows. Over to you, John.
Thank you. I'm John Sullivan. Sullivan Adventures is my consulting company. We're consultants, we're investors, and been in weed business for a very long time, and very excited to talk about New York.
Awesome, John. Thank you for joining us, by the way.
Thanks for inviting us.
David.
I'm David Feldman. I am CEO and co-founder of Skip Intro Advisors. We are a business consulting firm in cannabis doing strategic advisory, finance, M&A, and regulatory strategy. We also run a law firm called Feldman Legal Advisors, a boutique firm focused on cannabis and psychedelics, as Skip Intro is as well. Big focus on New York. I'm 30 years a corporate and securities lawyer and Wharton grad, so I love doing all this exciting, cutting-edge work, and excited to talk about New York today.
That's you know what, ladies and gentlemen, that should be the. It's been a little while for practice law, but you guys all qualified as experts.
Yes, we are.
Sorry, I've been in a courtroom in 15 years.
Here's what's fun about what we're going to share today. We want people to understand what were some of the early beginnings. So that's where we thought we'd start, Dimitri. John, tell us about 2014, what happened in New York?
Well, in 2014, I was sitting on a park bench in Paris, France, reading the New York Times on my iPhone, and I read an article about how Governor Cuomo had just signed the Compassionate Care Act, and Gene was sitting next to me, and I was astonished, because New York, the land of Rockefeller drug laws and Rudy Giuliani's, stop and frisk and all that, I was astonished to read that marijuana was coming to New York. And I said to Gene, hey, when we get back to New York, let's do, this is 2014, so 10 years ago, let's dive into the business. And so the Compassionate Care Act was signed. It created 10 medical licenses. They could open 4 dispensaries, completely vertically integrated. They could have 4 dispensaries each.
10 vertically integrated licenses.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. But that's 40 dispensaries, not nearly enough for the medical patients in New York.
Imagine 40 CVSs in one state of 20 million people. How crazy is that?
No, it's unbelievable. Like in Alabama, we were just learning there's 4 right now.
And guess what? It's still that way. And that's where part of the story comes to play. What happened? Explain not only the dispensaries, but what the other licenses are for each of those 10.
So the 10 medical licenses, yeah, they're vertically integrated, so they can cultivate, they can
Right.
process, they can sell. Those are the three big ones.
Transport, distribute as well.
Their own stuff.
Yes.
Yes, it's their own stuff.
In fact, they have to be vertically integrated.
Yes.
That's
Yes, that was a mandate.
which is ironic because the new program that we're going to talk about, the adult use program,
Right.
bans vertical
Right.
integration.
Now New York is hostile to vertical integration.
So take us there, David. First of all, the MRTA, it's something we should speak to.
Sure.
That came to play due to this statute then that occurred afterwards.
The Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act was passed in 2021. Cuomo had made it difficult to get it through. He had certain demands that the legislature didn't agree to. Finally, when his scandals started getting difficult, he backed down and agreed to a lot of the things he wasn't willing to agree to before. And so it did take about 2 years to get things implemented after that. But the focus of the MRTA is social equity. That is the centerpiece of the entire legislation. We are here to right the wrongs of the war on drugs and help the people who were damaged by it. And so there is a bit of a bias against the big multi-state operators coming in or expanding, although they will allow the existing 10 licensees to have adult use stores, but only in their existing stores, only in the 40 stores co-located. Possibly they'll do more.
So there were only 40 medical stores. There was only 10 licenses when what's it called MRTA.
Yeah,
MRTA.
MRTA was.
we call it MRTA.
And so, and it happens differently. Every state, Colorado transitioned from medical to adult use, Washington, et cetera, Arizona, et cetera. How did that dynamic occur? Were they grandfathered in, the medical?
The politics of New York is historically corrupt.
Right.
Imagine that.
Every 5
you heard it
years,
here
Shocking.
first.
Shocking.
every 5 years, we take the leaders of the legislature and we put them in jail.
Okay.
And we drive governors out of town too on a fairly regular basis.
That's embarrassing.
So the political back and forth that led to this, again, was focused heavily on promoting social equity, helping those that were damaged by the war on drugs.
That's right.
And so they did allow the existing registered organizations, the medical licensees, to continue and expand into adult use and continue to be vertically integrated.
Okay.
But other than that, you cannot own a grow and a dispensary or vice versa.
In the new system.
Yes.
So, but these continue to be vertically integrated. And
For medical.
Just medical.
Well, but also they're going to be able to add adult use to their
That's
existing
true.
licenses. And new registered organizations, licenses can be granted as well under the MITA. So MITA will allow additional folks to get these combined medical and adult use licenses that can be, in fact, will be vertically integrated. But there's around a, $20 million application fee.
And
Right.
we're the only state that managed to layer on that kind of a fee.
that is a massive fee.
It's
We have
Sure
like
is.
50,000 in Arizona, and a lot of states are minimal. That is
Well,
incredible.
the regular licenses will be more like 1,000. But for these big, vertically integrated registered organization licenses, and it's not 20 million all up front. You're paying 5 million initially, and most of the rest is based on your revenues later. But still, it's a big fee.
And hold your thought, but go. But I'm waiting to see if there's a state that decides to auction them off.
There we go.
You see what I'm saying? Craziness.
Sure.
But go ahead.
Okay, this MRTA did have a couple of interesting and pretty cool things. Let me tell you one of the most unusual ones, allowing cannabis to be smoked on
Right.
the streets of New York anywhere. Cigarettes can be smoked. Now,
Right.
a lot of people don't like that, but I'd rather
Right.
smell that kind of a smell of cannabis.
Uncle Mike, you can smoke on the streets of New York now.
Yes.
That's
Not
what-
only the streets,
Where's Uncle Mike?
anywhere.
You can smoke
Anywhere.
anywhere you
Rooftop
want.
lounges, wherever cigarette
Yeah.
smoking's allowed.
We
Right.
think that's cool.
So why aren't we doing MJBizCon in New York City?
Good
They
question.
should.
Sure,
Very good
let's-
question.
You want to do a
Welcome.
big conference in New York City?
Absolutely.
Sure.
We can
Come
do
on
it at the
in.
convention center.
Oh, I'll put it on.
Come on in.
Yeah.
They should.
There's one other thing. In the social equity program you just heard from David, guess what? Women are considered social equity applicants.
Sure.
All
it's
women?
not that way.
All
yes.
women.
It's not that way in most states. So we like that too.
Women.
You're lucky you're married to her.
I know.
Well,
No?
in it,
In more ways than one.
Here's your applicant right here.
It's not
Okay.
only women; it's also
Oh,
disabled
veterans.
veterans, struggling farmers, and anyone with a past marijuana
So
conviction.
now let's go to that. Let's go to now what has happened since its original MRTA, those 10 medical licenses that are there. Now we have created this new, quote, card program. That's the acronym. Take it away, David. Speak to that.
CAURD, right?
CAURD.
CAURD.
Just rolls right off
When
the
was
tongue.
the effective date of this legislation? Just so we can put a little
From
chronology.
MRTA, the law
year ago.
was March of 2021,
Right.
Okay.
and the card program started about a year ago.
About a year ago.
About a year ago, and they said in the initial round of dispensary applications, you have to be someone with a prior New York State marijuana conviction, and have at least 2 years of sort of business experience.
Right.
And they said we're going to limit the first round to just those people.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, they issued about 480.
First 200.
Yep.
First 200. They
Right.
were going to do 150. Then they increased it again. I think it's 480 is the
It's
final.
483.
Right.
483
Right.
have been provisionally
Right.
granted.
900 applied, but but half of them didn't qualify on financial reasons.
Right.
Correct.
And said they had convictions that actually didn't pan out. So the pool of card people we're dealing with now is around 400.
And what the state did was they said, all right, because we know these people may not have the financial resources and the experience to build a business here, we're going to help them find a location. We're going to help them with financing and so on. That took a while to get going, and there was a lot of controversy relating to that. And then, but they ended it. But 23 stores got open, and then
Right.
came a lawsuit.
Ooh.
Right.
And before that, there was another lawsuit. There was a guy. So remember, you can only get a license if you have a prior New York State conviction.
Right.
Some guy who had a conviction in Michigan said this is unconstitutional
Okay.
to just have New York State convictions. I'm suing. And he got an injunction that stopped new licenses from being issued in 5 regions of the state, including Brooklyn, Westchester, a few other places. A year later, that got settled with him getting a license and dropping the lawsuit.
But the concept wasn't settled, just the lawsuit was settled.
Correct. So this is what happened. So then there was another lawsuit by
Right.
a group of disabled veterans
Yeah,
who
I
said,
got mine, now I'm settling. Sorry, go ahead.
well, there's a provision in the MRTA that actually says the first round of dispensary application licenses has to be open to everyone.
Right.
And they did not do that. And they arguably violated the
Right,
MRTA
right.
when they limited the first round to people with convictions.
Right. The
And so
Office of Cannabis Management is supposed to follow the law in terms of regulations, and they didn't.
So the
Which-
veterans sued, and
Yeah.
they said, we want an injunction to stop all these new card licenses getting issued until there's a determination.
Now, let me tell you the net effect of this, because we have all
And just, I'm sorry, I'm
advised-
just going to interrupt to give the
Yes.
timing. That happened in August of this year.
Yes.
2023.
That the
Now,
injunction was issued.
Here's what's
Right.
important to know. Each of us have advised some terrific people who have leases, who have payroll, who have relationships with the vendors for their wonderful product. Guess what? Stuck in the mud, not able to open. They have payroll, they have leases.
The
And
application
that's the
process is
hard part.
multi-step. So there's an initial application, and then when you get your initial provisional approval, that's when you go sign a lease, that's when you go do your construction and so on, and then you get final approval after that. So only 23 stores had gotten to the point of opening up
Right.
before this injunction happened. So there's another 450 that are
Waiting.
provisionally approved,
What a
but
mess.
everything stopped since August.
That,
What a mess.
So our goal of today is to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's where the pain is right now that we want relief on.
Well, first of all, I'm never going to get involved in New York. But
No,
if I
don't
was,
Well,
say
don't
that.
say that.
No, hold
Don't
on.
say that.
Hold on,
No,
David.
it's
Could
one
be
of you
huge
three.
market.
In 5
I
years,
would call you first, and then you would
Okay.
tell me, okay?
You
New
hire
York-
me as a consultant. I'll take
Yes,
care of you.
trust me, I would.
New York in 5 years is going to be awesome.
You think
And
so?
it's going to take a while. It's going to be the biggest cannabis market of any
Oh,
state.
yeah.
And it's going to be attractive and profitable
Now,
for a
David,
lot of people.
Do you remember I told you don't use future tense? It already is the largest
right.
mecca of
Of
cannabis
course, yes.
in the world. Only now we need to turn it from illicit to legal,
Right.
to license.
And along those lines, there's so many dissertation level topics that are occurring in the development of the cannabis industry. Changing a commodity from medical to adult use. How should that work? How is it working? How are the experiments working? But also the big thing is the black market versus the
Sure.
traditional market. What are the proper civil or criminal sanctions to keep people participating within the system? Along those lines, there's a lot of talk out there about New York being black market, What are the criminal and civil sanctions for people if they don't participate in the regulatory system? Why is the black market thriving? Are the taxes too high? You want to talk about that theme a little bit?
Well, it is important, but I want to tell you something good before we tell you that part. Let's speak to what happened with the hemp operators and bring into the whole AUCC piece.
Before you even do that, I think we just need to do one other thing, which is close the loop on the lawsuit.
Go ahead.
And the injunction, because there is good news there,
Yes.
which is literally yesterday, they did approve a settlement of that
Right.
lawsuit that was the subject of the injunction. And we're waiting for the judge to approve the settlement. But under the settlement, the injunction goes away. The card program will continue forward, although they're not allowed to issue any new card licenses until April,
Right.
which is fine because all the 450 can move forward. And the veterans who sued are all getting licenses. And they have already decided back in September to open up a new round of applications for retail mostly, for anybody. And that opened up in October and closes in December. So that's the good. So now you can talk about the hemp program.
So recall that we have a hemp program in New York that was pretty vibrant.
Yeah.
And what happened then was blessing the hemp, both cultivators and about 20 processors, and said to them, you can now grow THC cannabis and process real brands and products. That happened over the last couple years.
Right.
And in fact, today there's 270 of those conditional licenses. So they were thrilled because they spent a lot of money and didn't get much out of the hemp production. And now they're finally able to grow flower.
But we should explain why they did that, which
Proceed.
is in other states like Nevada,
Right.
when they opened up, they gave licenses to growers and dispensaries at the same time. And the dispensaries opened, but the growers hadn't grown yet.
Right.
So there was like almost a 6-month period where there was no product in the stores. And so New York did something actually very smart for a change. And that was, they said, we're going to let the existing hemp licensees start growing adult use immediately to
Yes.
get ready for the stores that haven't even been approved yet.
I'd like to meet the guy who came up with that concept.
Well, here's the problem. The problem is they did that, and
Right.
then the process of issuing the new...
Bob Hoban.
I know.
Hey, Bob. and then the process, he and I are Facebook friends. And then the process of going ahead and approving the new ones has been challenging. But anyway, go ahead.
No, it's interesting.
Well,
John, speak to the
there's an imbalance, right?
imbalance, but also
Yeah.
speak to the Grower Showcase, which has helped a
Yes.
little bit.
Yes, the grower showcase, because of this imbalance, you have all these former hemp growers now growing THC cannabis, not enough dispensaries to sell them in. The real financial stress is happening to those farmers, and so they came up with a program called the Cannabis Growers Showcase, which is really a farm market for cannabis. Adults only get in and all that kind of good stuff, and that has worked out reasonably well. But there's only 20 of them or so, maybe a little more on those.
Are those hemp licenses unlimited canopy?
No,
No.
No, they're limited.
Oh yeah.
it was 1 acre
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 acre.
or
and no-
a greenhouse.
Right. And
with
no,
20
no-
lights.
and no indoor.
No
Go-
indoor.
Go figure.
No indoor.
I like our Arizona unlimited canopy setups that we have. We have got these giant greenhouses that are ready to be turned on with federal legalization, interstate commerce.
Nice.
So
Of course,
now,
probably somebody in New York will probably try to keep us out, but it won't be you guys.
Well, the big
Tomato.
MSOs are opening bigger, more growing facilities
Yes.
in anticipation of adult use, but I think it's also in anticipation of interstate and global market.
now, Dimitri, back to where you were going about the illicit
Yes.
retail shops. You can see from these delays and the complications that we've discussed what happened. Because of the slowness, guess what? All
Blew up.
these,
Right.
all these shops opened up. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
And guess what? Big bright lights, very welcoming, lots of product. In fact, the inside story is we have the best California cannabis in New York of any
Of any state.
Yes. Well, you always have, and I guess.
And now it's on the shelves.
Right.
Now, here's one of the quirky things. We're so overregulated that just like Canada, even our new retail, shiny, licensed dispensaries, you're not even allowed to look in the window. It's crazy. Whereas the illicit shops, bright, sunny,
We don't want to tempt anybody
beautiful,
now.
Big
beautiful.
leaves.
But the illicit shops are welcoming and,
And let's-
carpeted floors, beautiful.
Let me throw out a thought real quickly, and I want to talk to you. Talk about a little bit about the criminal and civil sanctions for not participating. But I told people during COVID, and I come from a very liberal family. I said, be careful about the policies that you enact, the laws that you pass, because if they look silly, you're going to lose the credibility of government. And we need government to be credible. We need people to respect it. I don't know how anyone in their right mind
to crack down a bit. Both OCM and the city police have powers now, not to arrest necessarily, but they can shut them down. And now they're starting to fine the landlords, and that's where it's going to be felt. I think it goes up to $1,000 a day. That starts adding up. If you're
But
not.
they do close and then they're open
And
the
then they
next
reopen.
day.
Right. Yes.
Right, same thing like happens in California.
Yeah.
There's
But
no
you're
criminal.
never going to look. There's a black market in cigarettes that continues to this day.
Right.
Right.
It's never going to go away completely. The challenge is to make the pricing and the taxes and the oversight on the regulatory not be so burdensome that they really can compete with that. But it's hard. If you have a guy who always came to your apartment, do you want to give up your guy?
And two things. We don't want to restart the war on drugs. But number
Exactly.
two, there's not really enough police force or really a team to close these.
Yeah, the cops have better stuff to do
Yeah,
in
and,
New York.
And that's a good thing. Now, here's some more good news. On October 4th of this year, we finally opened up the portal for everybody to apply.
Right.
So, David, take us through that.
So the new round allows anyone to apply for, I think there's 5 licensed areas, and it's dispensary and so on. But it's not for consumption lounges yet and a few
Not
other
yet.
things. But it's mainly focused on dispensary. And they're planning to issue somewhere between 500 and 1,000 new dispensary licenses in this round that's going to, quote, everybody. They weren't sure whether the card people were going to be part of that or not. And they encouraged the card people to reapply in case card was thrown out by the court, which now it hasn't been. So what we don't know are things like, well, what happens to all the people who applied in the new round? Do those applications continue? Do they go away? What about the card people? How are we going to Zoom them through? There's a lot of unknowns,
I love
and they're
this.
not the greatest at communicating what they plan to do from OCM. We asked them, and then they're wonderful, experienced politicians who know how to talk to you for 20 minutes and say absolutely nothing.
My imagination has no limits. As I'm listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, I would have just opened up and issued a ton of licenses in order to settle a lawsuit because these guys are just going to go away.
But that's what they
That's
basically
kind of what
did.
they're
Yeah,
doing,
I mean,
yeah.
but unlimited? Is it unlimited?
They're not.
The people who sue get licenses.
Yeah, but
No, but which is
Well,
another conversation.
Right.
But they are not saying that there's, in fact, they're saying that they don't anticipate a limit ultimately on license. However, this round ends December 18th, and they have not given any indication when another round may come after.
This is some wild stuff. I promise, if I get off of a plane in New York, I'm going to call the three of you guys
Absolutely.
first.
And we'll take you
say,
to dinner
yes,
too, Dimitri.
Yeah.
Very first thing when you go to New York is have dinner with these people.
Yes.
We'll take you downtown to a few of the
Let's
licensed
put-
dispensaries.
But also, I think you guys are available for consulting too, is right?
We
Sure.
are indeed.
Love
Yeah.
it.
And navigating the investment possibilities and the market opportunities. It's so nuanced in New York.
Tell you,
It's so nuanced.
One thing
Well-
is New York needs brands. You know, we've got, I don't know, 50 or 100 brands.
350
Okay.
SKUs
Yeah, okay.
today.
SKUs. So,
Yeah.
so the number of brands is even a subset of that. So for companies that have smoking brands, good brands, I mean by that, all over the country, come to New York because come on in.
I got brands falling out of my pockets.
Well,
Call-
let's talk.
Bring 'em
We're
in.
happy to help them.
I'm like
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy and Raw, but we won't go into that joke. So look, we have to wrap this up, but I am thrilled about you guys showing up and giving us this information, introducing yourself to our audience, the quality of individuals that are here at MJBizCon, the quality of individuals that we brought on MITA Unshackled. I'm excited just to sit here and listen. And now I know you guys more. And we
Thank
didn't
you.
know each other that well before.
Thank you.
Thank you
hope
for
we
inviting
met-
us to
Let's bring them to New York next year. I think
Yes.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
No, but I'm going to bring you a bunch of brands, and there's other people out there.
Love it.
Absolutely.
We need brands there.
We do.
Closing thoughts, and how do people get in touch with you? David, do you want to go first?
Sure. New York is going to be an exciting market. There are definitely growing pains along the way. They're trying to do something a little bit different, so there's going to be challenges and problems when politicians are in charge. But it's going to iron itself out in time. So New York is welcoming to new people, new investors, and so on. Certain restrictions. But to get in touch with us, I'm at Feldman at skipintroadvisors.com, and love to talk to anybody.
All right. And I'm on LinkedIn. So John Sullivan, John A. Sullivan on LinkedIn, Sullivan Adventures, and just connect me there.
And Gene Sullivan at Gmail.
Closing thoughts.
You know, one of my big disappointments is why didn't we learn from Illinois, from Arizona, from Nevada, from California? That's a disappointment. But you have to know what to do and how to do it to navigate this very, very tricky alligator swamp. So happy to help.
Yes.
Because we want to build a vibrant New York market. Thank you.
There's nothing wrong with the cash register in New York. There's lots of people smoking weed, buying weed, enjoying weed. It's all the background stuff that's kind of followed up.
Dispensaries are doing $1 million a week.
Yes.
The legal ones or the
Yes.
illegal ones?
Legal.
Legal.
And how much are the illegal ones doing?
Oh, a
Oh.
lot more than that.
Millions and millions.
Not individually, though.
No.
And
They don't have lines out the door the way the legal ones have.
I understand now why you are excited about
Yes.
New York. I really do. It's because there's opportunity. It's just a matter of navigating those waters,
Yep.
those shark-filled,
Right.
reef-filled, rock-filled, iceberg-filled waters, and getting to the promised land. But now our audience has 3 individuals that they can contact when they want to reach out to New York. So that has been a great benefit for you guys being here.
We appreciate you having us.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.